So who's ever done a perfect game of Pacman then? Yeah, look, many of the other people in the world will share their experiences. How far have you got? Who's gone? Jim?
Thanks to John.
Yep.
I got to the kill screen. Prior to John, level 4,
Yeah.
5.
Kill screen. We're going to find out what that is if we don't really know. How about other people? How are we doing? Got through a couple of levels? 15! Good work. That took you a while, didn't it? That was, I don't know, how long did that take you? Were you running away scared for lots? Or did you just nail it? I don't know. 15. Yeah, well, there are a lot of levels. We're going to find out exactly the extremes of this challenge. If you don't know what the perfect Pacman game is, we're going to tell you what the perfect Pacman game is. It is, yeah, an enormous challenge is what it is. We'll tell you exactly how difficult and big a challenge it is. And if you've been to many of our replay events, let's find out who's been to replay events before and seen this man basically tied to a Pacman machine. Yeah, you must be at a bit of a loose end, John, to be honest, because every replay event that I've worked at, and I've worked at a number of these now, you have been there at a Pacman machine, cameras filming you, raising money for charity as well. It's absolutely fantastic. Trying to get this perfect game. And last August, at Play Margate, 22nd of August, I think it was? Yeah. 22nd of August, Play Margate last year. Did it! Finally got it. So a round of applause, please. Jon Stoodley, only 7 people in the world who've ever done the perfect game of Pacman. Congratulations, John. Yeah, another round of applause. Tried so hard, tried for so much time, so we're going to talk about all that effort that went into it. Find out why, which is a question I think we also need to ask.
My wife has the same question.
You're married. So we're going to find out what is the scope of this challenge, what is the scale of this challenge, and why did you do it, and how, and then we'll give you some insight into how you can do it, and then you'll just have to give up years of your lives until you're the 8th person to do it, I think. So let's find out. John, thank you so much for joining us here at Play Blackpool. Let's go from the top, John. John, look at you. Right. So tell us about your start. So you've always been a gamer, or did gaming come to you quite late?
Yeah, I've always been a gamer. I started gaming probably 1978. Played Space Invaders, the usual games that everyone plays when it came out.
So you were in arcades, spending your 10p, spending your dad's 10p's.
Absolutely. On the picture you can see there, this is me, aged 13, and this is the arcade I used to play in, which was the Las Vegas in Liverpool.
Yeah, we're talking Blackpool arcades. Nice.
Yes, it didn't actually look like that. It's changed over the years. It used to say "Welcome to Liverpool's Las Vegas," and they changed it to Las Vegas. You'll see it.
You were no longer welcome then. It was just there. And so you spent a lot of time there, like so many of us would have done as kids.
Yeah, I worked part-time in cleaning cars. I used to get the bus from Hunts Cross into town. I used to meet friends and play in the arcade. And it was the premier arcade in Liverpool as well. It was brilliant. It really was.
Did you, at that time, think your life would revolve considerably around games?
Not really. I enjoyed gaming. I didn't really play at home either. But Pacman wasn't really the first game.
Was it there?
It was there, yeah.
Okay, so they had it. Did you play it at all?
Not really. I used to play a game, if you can advance the slide. Yeah, the first game that I actually played, you see here, is Berserk, which probably lots of you have played as well. So I played Berserk before I played Pacman, and my brother used to play Pacman, and he was a 100,000 point player in 1981. So he used to say to me, would you like a 2-player game? And I wasn't interested in Pacman, so that's how I really got into playing Pacman. And then before I knew it, I was a 100,000 point player within a month. So I really concentrated on Pacman, and I enjoyed it quite a lot.
So you were good at games? They came quite naturally to you?
Probably, yeah. I was quite good at Space Invaders, and there's a few subsequent ones after Pacman. I mean, this really put my gaming on the shelf for quite a while because of the extent I went to. But yeah, this was my first game, and this is another game which I'd like to get back into as well.
So let's move on. And look at this. This is glorious whole thing. So your first experience with Pacman, you were saying, was on a dual screen one?
Yeah, in Las Vegas. The guys who went to Las Vegas could probably remember that they had a dual screen Pacman, which was, obviously this is Tron, but as an example, it was the same as this, all black, and had a monitor at the top. Now, it was one of the things that attracted me to Pacman, was this setup, because if you people stood around and they watched. And age 13 and 14, when I played in Las Vegas and Liverpool, it was a big deal because I was only a young kid and there was lots of adults in the arcade as well. So yeah, this is typically the cab that I played on, and I was probably this big as well.
Does anybody remember dual screen cabs? I don't think I actually ever saw any. Yeah, yeah. Ah, okay. I was born in Southampton. I grew up in Southampton and played in arcades in Southampton. I don't remember ever seeing a dual cab. Okay.
Yeah, there wasn't many of them. I remember when there was two of them, they bought them in. I was playing Berserk and actually bought Pacman in. Because they didn't get Pacman until probably the middle of 81.
And did you play some Pacman and then just go, yeah, it's all right, and then leave it, or did it grab you right away?
Yeah, I just tried it, and it wasn't really for me, because I didn't really play that type of game. It was brand new, it was completely different. It was a character, it was probably one of the first character games. So it didn't really appeal to me. It's only when I started playing two-player games with my brother, and he was, like I said, he was really good at the time. Yeah. Then it was more of a competition then, because that's what the arcade was like. You competed against the guys who were in there. But yeah, that's Pacman anyway, originally by Namco, 1980.
Yeah. Tell us about this.
Oh, this is Computer Video Games magazine from
good old CMV.
83, it was. And you probably recognise it, Julian Brignall. He was the 1983 champion. Dave Lee Travis, that's going back a few years. So what they did was, in fact, a friend of mine in school, he bought this page. I always remember it because I had this section I had to fill in, you know, like in the arcade, as a witness to say that I was going to get a decent score. So what I did was, you probably see me just down the bottom, it's not very clear. Yeah, there's quite a few other guys on here as well. In fact, Martin Dean's there as well. There's quite a few people know Martin Dean. Yeah, that was my score, 3.221 million, which was a split screen score in June 83. At the time, can you just advance the slide for me? At the time, there was an organisation in America called Twin Galaxies, and a lot of you probably know about Twin Galaxies, but in the UK, we didn't know about it in the early 80s. What this is, basically, Walter Day produced this for Twin Galaxies, that when they realised my score from Computer and Video Games magazine, they researched the score. And they did all the work, and they sent me this, and you know, it was the highest score of the Golden Age, so between 78, obviously it didn't come out till 80, but till 84 it was classed as the world record that never was. So if I would have submitted the score to Twin Galaxies then, it would have been a world record score at the time, beating Tim Balderramos, who held the world record then.
So you sort of got this in retrospect?
Yeah, it's the highest score of the Golden Age, yeah.
When did they give you that?
It was 2008.
Because I was going to say, looking at that picture, you haven't changed, John. Look at you from 83. You've aged really well in the last 30 years.
It's like a time machine.
So, without giving anything away about what we're chasing for in the perfect game, how does 3.2 million points stack up? Is that it?
No, it wasn't it, because I got this in June 83. I actually pushed it up to 3.25 million. So it was 3,250,000, which was obviously higher than this. But
what is the perfect score?
3,333,360.
Run that by us again.
3,333,360.
3,333,360. So you weren't far off.
Absolutely miles off. Absolutely miles off. And even the subsequent scores, when you're 70 points away or 90 points, it's miles off.
Just missing it by something like 70
Absolutely.
points is huge.
Yeah.
We'll find out how.
Oh, there's Las Vegas again. I put the end of the Golden Age because, as you can see there, it was closed down then, it was to let. And the guys who've been to Liverpool recently will probably see that it's still there. I don't know if it's a protected or a listed building. It's still there, it's painted all black, it's been a cafe, it's been lots of different things. But yeah, that was a sad time. So yeah, they had all the gambling machines was on the bottom level, and then you walked up to the arcade, which was at the back.
You had to walk through the gambling machines to get to the arcade?
Or you could sneak in the side like I did, because I was just too young, obviously.
Any locals remember this? I know a couple of people said they've been there. Closed down.
Shop now.
It's a shop now. Oh, so that's the end of the Golden Age. And then the start of many years for you.
Yeah, it's quite a strange one, this, because a friend of mine had a PlayStation, and just out of the blue, he bought it in 2005, I think he bought it. It'd been out for 5 years, which was Pacman World. So this was a 3D version of the original game produced by Namco. But it had a bonus section on there that you could play the original classic game. So he'd play this, and he'd say, "Do you remember Pacman?" So I had a go. It was on obviously a D controller. I couldn't remember any strategies, or I didn't use many patterns then, you see.
When you got your 3.2 million score that we just saw that award for, were you aware of what you were doing then? You'd had patterns, you were aware of sort of the complexities of the game?
Yeah, I was aware of it because at the time, when you saw that score, 3.221 million, I was concentrating on, because I knew that was the end of the game then.
Okay.
No one knew, obviously, besides now with with emulation. I concentrated on doing group and that, and in as many points as I could on the early boards where you can score. But we'll come up to that shortly.
Okay.
So this was the return. So this was the thing that triggered the interest in Pacman again. And the challenge was for me that I was just nearly 40 years old then. So I thought, I need to try and do this. I was very, very, very confident when I was a young teenager. I was the best player in the world. I was so confident. So going back to the game, the challenge was to beat me using the exact same methods I did then. So that was one of the reasons why I decided not to use emulation, and it wasn't to be elitist. It was to challenge myself and beat the old score using exactly the same rules.
Yes, you do have this kind of set that you play in, don't you? This isn't like necessarily an official guideline. This is how you chose to take on the perfect game. You don't use emulation. You play at live events.
Yeah, I only played live, and you'll see some slides coming up as well. I played on Twitch TV as well. So to keep it live, I would play live. So the least live it would be Twitch. So people could tune in and play live. But yeah, all the other games I've played, I've never played. People think I stand at home playing for hours on end, and my wife's sat on the couch watching TV. It just doesn't happen because a lot of the time my machine has been with Replay Events, and they've been kindly enough to transport it around so I can play. So yeah, it was that strict regime, and I had to stick to it. That it had to be live, it had to be on an original machine, it had to be one coin, one play. If you die, you're over. That's it.
Do you like any of the other Pacman games? You said this is a 3D one that was out on PlayStation. Do you like any of the other ones?
I like the Battle Royale they brought out as the 4-player game, but not the sequels like Ms. Pacman. It just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
What about any of the really recent ones? I'm trying to think of the PS3 and Xbox. I know whenever we have these moments in these sort of shows, there's somebody
to be honest,
I know one. There was a Championship Edition. That is what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Championship Edition is not the original game.
No, of course not. No, but do you like any of those kind of
they're okay.
variations?
Yeah. The only thing is going for a perfect game, what it did was it put everything on hold. So modern gaming went on hold. When I got back into to beat the old score originally, we're going back to 2007, 2008. So since then, it hasn't just been about the perfect game. It's been about getting back into the game, to get a machine, to beat the old score first. And that was the important thing, was to beat the 3.221 million.
So that's what we're talking about.
Okay,
That's what you set yourself to do. And you had this moment where you thought, I'm gonna go for it now.
Yeah, it's a lot of them are obvious. They are for me anyway, but it had to be on an original machine. So the decision I made was to buy an original machine, which I bought on eBay. So I drove down to London with a friend, and we went down with a van, and we picked up this Cabaret, which you'll see coming up shortly. But yeah, and I decided to restore it and to use that cab as the cab to beat the scores and go for a perfect game. But yeah, I'm jumping the gun a bit here. There's a video coming up shortly, and I've decided to put it in after this because I don't know if you heard of Bill Mitchell. He was the first guy to get a perfect Pacman. He'll give you a short description about what a perfect game actually is.
It's rather simple. If you want to get a perfect game, you walk up, you put your quarter in, you press start, you eat every dot, you eat every prize, every energizer, and on every energizer you got to get all 4 guys every time. If you miss a guy, you're done. If you miss a prize, you're done. You miss anything, you're done. You die one time, you're done.
He's fun.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
He calls them energizers.
Yeah, the official name is Energizers.
That's the official name for what I've always called a power pill.
Yeah.
I'm not alone in that, right?
It's different machines. Like, on your the instructions says insert a coin, and then it says run after the ghost, and one was eat Energizer. On different machines, it said different things. Sometimes it said power pills, but yeah. That's Bill just giving a brief description of what the perfect game is. He was the first guy to do it in 1999.
Have you met him?
Yeah, quite good friends.
Oh, good. Let's see. Look at it.
Okay, this is the machine.
Your nemesis, I feel.
Complete with ashtray on the front. Yeah,
So you went and picked this up with a mate?
Yeah, I went down with a friend to London. It was £120 on eBay, so I won it. And I'll never forget when I went to look at it. This guy he restored through machines. And he actually said to me, he said, "Why did you decide to buy this?"
Were there pictures on the listing?
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing was, when I saw it, I thought, right, okay. And I was smiling. I thought, I've got a plan for this. And you'll see the way it unfolds. So actually, when we put it in the back of the van, if you advance the slide, you'll see. That's what it looked like.
Where's that? That's the back.
That's the base of the cab. Yeah, your hands went through it. It was mouldy. It was rotten. We had to take all the wiring out. The monitor didn't work. The joystick was solid. Yeah, the whole thing had to be restored. And there's a couple more slides. Thanks, Matt. This is because I completely formiced it, relaminated it. It was completely gutted. And as you go on in the slide, you can see everything was powder coated, everything it needed. I got some friends from America to send over things.
This is more than just sitting or standing in front of a cabinet and playing it and knowing what to do and that kind of mental focus. There's a huge labour of love involved in this as well.
Yeah, and when I set out to do it, this is exactly what I wanted to do.
You wanted this. You didn't want to pick up a good one
it.
and get on with completing the perfect game. You wanted the whole experience of having the machine and caring for it.
It had to be the original machine, so it could have been a yellow one. But the thing is, when you see the yellow one that's in the arcade, I never saw any midway caps. They were always bootlegs or like copy games with the original boards, but with micro-switch joysticks. And I'll never forget when I first went to Funspot to try and beat my old score. I walked up to their machine and they've got a yellow midway cab. And the guy, I'm jumping the gun again. The guys from America, they were like, "Who's this guy from England?" So I'm stood in front of the cab and I'm thinking, uh-oh, there's no clicks. Because the machine I was practicing on had a micro-switch joystick, whereas these have leaf springs. So when you move the joystick, there's nothing there, there's no sound. When you're going for a game like this, you've got to be completely 100% with what you're using. And I was using a completely foreign machine. So if we just move forward, Matt, cheers. Okay, this is quite important. As you see a name down the bottom, Eric Akerson. Now, Eric he's a turbo Pacman player, and he sent through his transportation company, this is a new monitor for my cab. So he's kind enough to send it over. And this is way before the perfect game. He's put on there, you can probably see the score, the perfect score. And he wasn't joking. Because the guys in America, when they say, we want to see a perfect score, I remember Walter Dace coming up to me and saying, "Johnny, are you on a perfect score?" I said, "No, Walter, I was trying to beat my old score." But they just wanted to see a perfect game. And subsequently I found out a few reasons why, because all the perfect games are owned by North Americans. There's no others. So it's all American and the 2 Canadians. So that gave me another boost. So it wasn't just going to be to get a perfect game, it was going to be the first European and the first non-North American.
You originally set out thinking, I want to beat my old score. That was 100,000-ish off of the perfect game, which you're saying is actually huge. Yeah. Did you not think, did you think, I can't get the perfect game, I just want to do better than I did?
Absolutely, and it's a great question as well, Matt, because when I looked into the perfect game, I thought, this guy called Bill Mitchell to the perfect game, I thought, well, it's not possible. Because I'd played it to death, and I knew that on certain boards, you had 1 second to get all 4 ghosts. So you had to use a specific technique called grouping, or freehand grouping. Things have changed over the years with emulation, because there's guys who do really fast, perfect games, and they use emulation, and they use save states, and they pause the game. But to be true, and to be the way I did it, I just had to do it the old-fashioned way. So I had to learn how to group the ghosts, and this is what took a lot of the time as well. Cheers, man.
Lovely work.
Okay, 4 months later. And it's actually, you've seen it in the arcade, which belongs in Arcade Club now.
The ones you've been, the one you have been playing on.
That's the one I got the perfect
is
game
that
on.
one?
That's the game out there, yeah. So this was the machine that I got the perfect game on in Margate last year.
I have to say well done to all the guys at Replay Events for taking care of it so well and moving it around so much. Right, so you've mentioned freehand grips. This is where we start getting into the nitty-gritty of this. That video that you showed mentioned what the perfect game is. Let's summarise again, just quickly. The perfect game.
Okay, perfect game. You need to, like Bill said, you've got to walk up to the machine, you've got to put 1 coin in, or 1 credit. You've got to go from the beginning, board 1, which is the cherry, to board 255, which is the 234th key, without losing a life, without missing a bonus, without missing any dots, without dying, so it has to be on your first life. And then when you get on the split screen on Pacman, it's not like a kill screen where Donkey Kong, you die. It allows you to play out your lives. So with a perfect game of Pacman, what you need to do is, this is and anyone who plays perfect Pacman, you forget about your lives. They don't exist. It's not like, you know when you go for your high scores, say you're playing Space Invaders, and your high score's 70,000. You may get 30,000 on your first life and think, I'm doing really well, I've still got 3 lives left. Doesn't exist here, because every single life is worth 90 points when you get to the split screen at the end. So it is possible to get to the split screen, which I've done before, what's called a perfect ease, where you get there but you died en route, so you've lost 90 points because you lost 1 life. You'll understand it when you see, there's a video coming up now which is actually from my perfect game, and it shows you basic freehand grouping, and it's difficult for me to do commentary on freehand grouping because if you've got no knowledge about it, it's very, very difficult to follow. So what I'll do is I'll do my best to talk about pointers as you go through the video. It's about 3.5 minutes long. Okay, so the main idea here is I need to group these ghosts together because when I hit the power pills or the energizers, these ghosts have got to be on top of each other, okay? So what I do is the primary ghost that you go for, Pinky, Blinky and Inky, which is obviously pink, red, and the blue ghost. Pokey here, you'll probably watch, he just does his own thing, so I'm concentrating on that 3 group of ghosts. So when I get them on top of each other, in effect, I've got 2 ghosts instead of 4. So when I bring the pack of 3 to a power pill, as you see here, now watch Pokey reverse, see in reverse? Every time you get a power pill, Pokey is always here at the back. When he goes past the power pill, as soon as you hit the power pill, he reverses back to you. So you know, as long as you've got them 3 primary ghosts, red, blue, and pink, and they're on top of each other, when you hit the power pill, as long as Pokey's in the vicinity, he will reverse and come back into, so you know you've got all 4 ghosts. You probably see I use an attraction method here. If you go up to the top here, every ghost will go past you up here besides the red ghost. So I use that as an opportunity to group as well. So it's back again, the ghost coming up the ghost box, I need to go up to the top, and it's basically just a case of grouping the ghosts together. What I'll do is I'll come down here, he'll drop down, see I'm just stacking them on top of each other. You'll see, even though it's not pattern play, this is freehand, so I'm grouping them freehand, it starts to become a little bit patterned. You can't avoid that because it's a maze. So, although it's freehand, you see I've got them all together here. That would have been a good opportunity for the bottom left, but I've already got that. So I'm concentrating now really on top left, and I've got them all together there. And you notice did I clear the path just before the power pill? So when I hit the power pill, I don't want anything in my way to slow me down. Okay, so they're quite split up here, so it's just a case of dropping them back down together. See where they're all on top of each other now? And you'll see Pokey, the brown or orange ghost, just doing his own thing there. So, on this one, the method I use, I always bring them down here, drop them down here, so they all converge here, you'll see shortly. So my thought of play here is I'm going to go up the right tunnel and wait for the exact right moment to bring the orange ghost across. And this is probably, I wouldn't have gone for this. Well, it's not this one, I think it's the next one, because you'll probably see the 3 primary ghosts are on top of each other? When I go for that power pill, Pokey's slightly behind, and normally I wouldn't have gone for it, but I think I was just getting a bit impatient.
You cannot get impatient at this game.
Well, this is it. You see Pokey's half a ghost behind. Now, watch how many dots are clear, see? So when I hit the power pill, there's nothing in front of me to slow me down. And when I got the last ghost, I didn't think I was going to get it. They were just about to change then.
So the dots slow you down?
They do, yeah. They take 10% off your speed, so... And if you notice the way, when I'm playing, you probably think, why are you leaving so many dots? The idea is the more dots you eat, the faster the ghosts, yeah? And then when you get to the final, it's about 25 dots. Blinky is 110% speed, so he will catch you easily. And to group the ghosts, you've got to have them all at the same speed. Because once they speed up and then Blinky overtakes the other ghost, it makes grooving really difficult. So there's patience here, because obviously I've got my bonus going for here as well, so I don't want to miss that. You've got to be really patient here because the tendency is that you think, well, I've got all the ghosts, I've got all 1600 on each power film, is to clear the board, but you have to regroup the ghosts, just keep them under control. And I remembered at this point, I was looking down thinking, right, 5th key, because the next one, the power fills don't work, they don't change. And I was thinking then, oh, there's only 5 hours to go.
Is this from your actual perfect game, or is this is actually from?
Game, yeah.
So while we're watching this go around, for people like myself, like learning a lot of like little things about Pacman, and perhaps like some players who play this a lot might take for granted. So the dots actually slow you down, and the ghosts all have different behaviours. Can you take us through, because you're obviously, subtly in your mind, you know where these ghosts are going to go. You're grouping, you're moving around this maze, but you're moving around this maze with a purpose, thinking, I know this ghost is going to follow me and that one I've got to lure. Can you tell us the behaviours of the ghosts? Are they easy to summarise?
They are easy to summarise, yeah. The red ghost is always the most aggressive.
When he sees you, he's on you and he'll stay.
Yeah, and he will follow you. That's why when I'm doing grouping, I need to keep him at the back of the pack. And for me, the red ghost is the most aggressive, and it's Pinky, and then it's Inky, the blue ghost, whereas Pokey just does his own thing.
Yeah, because Pokey was following you and then just went off in another direction.
Yeah, and it's patience as well there, because you need to wait for the ideal opportunity to bring him over to the power pill. You can control the other three quite straightforwardly, but you have to wait. There's a lot of periphery vision in this game as well. And what I would say as well is, people who play Pacman or you don't get big scores, just remember that when you press play, the first thing the ghosts do, they don't chase you. They run to their power pills. Now, I say it's a patrol of the power pill, and then it's a pursuit. They pursue you after that. So just the 2 Ps. And you didn't say just before that video started that I was actually here. So when it starts, I'm here. So what I've done is I've come around here and stopped here. And the idea is to get to this spot, or a sit spot, before the reversal finishes, because they go straight to the corners, and they're not looking for you. So you can get to this point here, you've eaten as least dots as possible, but they haven't seen you. So when they come back, I don't know the exact AI or how the algorithms were programmed, but a lot of these we found out back in the day, and so it was just accidental. You'd be watching someone play, and they would do a certain thing, and you just incorporating that into your game. It's like the early patterns we used as well.
Where's the spot on the board that they won't get you?
There's quite a few.
That's it.
Yeah, there's one here. Yeah, there's one here. There's one here, yeah. There's another one here, but depending on where you've positioned the ghost in the maze, and you probably saw before, I was sat here, and there's 2 ghosts coming around the ghost box, and there's 2 go around here as well.
Is that because they haven't seen, if they're chasing you, like the red one being aggressive,
yeah,
once they're chasing you, they'll go there, won't they?
Yeah, like I said before, I can wait here, and the pink and the blue ghosts will go straight up, and they'll just keep going around.
What if they're chasing you? Will they go off in the other direction?
No, they'll
come for you if they're chasing you.
Well, they can't find you there, you see. They just go into a pattern.
Even if they were already chasing
Absolutely,
you,
yeah.
they'll just go by?
Yeah.
So you can lose them?
Yeah.
Ah. So there we go. So there's a few spots. Okay, so now we can all do it, yeah? Form an orderly queue, and we'll go get cracking. Now that's freehand grouping, which you told me is a technique not used very much anymore.
It's not used anymore. It was quite surprising to me, because when I went to America, I went there a few times to play, most of the modern gamers use emulation. And for me, it wasn't an option, because emulation, I was doing it the way I did it back in the day, which was to use a machine, hard slog, and try not to use patterns. But it's just widely accepted now that emulation is the way you do it. So I spoke to some of the guys in America, and they said, well, yeah, how else do you do it? There's no arcades, we don't have our own machines, we have to use emulation. But it was quite unique for me, because, like I said, the challenge was to beat me, and to pass my old score, and then to be pushed to go for a perfect game, which I wasn't going to go for a perfect game. Once I beat my old score, and then I upped that score, I just thought, well, that was going to be it. But yeah, a couple of friends pushed me to do it.
If somebody did want to play on an emulated version of Pacman, is there one you can recommend which is completely true to a cab? If it's not the actual physical thing.
The latest version of MAME is very, very accurate.
Right.
I can tell there's nuances in the game that are not the same as arcade.
Okay.
It's not 100% emulation.
That's as good as somebody can
Absolutely,
get to
yeah.
trial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Write the scores.
So
go
this
back-
is your onward attempt to try and beat your old score.
Yeah, yeah. So I started playing live then. This is even before my own personal machine had been finished. So I tried to get to as many events as I could. This was the first one. This was Retrofusion. So it was the Oliver twins. That was their cab. So they took it along to the event. It was set to 2 men as well. I thought, how robbed me. I had 2 lives. And to the right of the cab, you can't actually see, but there was Rock Band. And the guys were playing Rock Band. It was so loud. The guys at the back, they're laughing because they remember. I think they were there. Yeah, it was so loud. It was great fun as well, don't get me wrong. But doing this, it's always been tunnel vision for me. When I've been playing, everyone just sees me back. And that was a rare opportunity to get a picture. So I got 800,000 points there, which I was happy with. There's 2 lives under the conditions. And to be honest, these type of conditions honed the perfect game down the line because it's quite difficult conditions to play in. Same year when I was at Fun Spot. So there's a guy called Tony Temple, who some of you know, he's the world champion at Missile Command. We were really good friends, me and Tony now. So he said, why don't you go to Fun Spot and play live?
And Fun Spot, for people who don't know.
Yeah, Fun Spot's like Premier Arcade. It's in New Hampshire in America. So it's the world's biggest arcade. It's been overtaken now by a place called, what's it called? Galloping Ghost. So Galloping Ghost has got more machines now than Fun Spot. Well, Fun Spot's like the original. It's where everyone went to get their world record scores. And because I played live, Tony said, well, why don't you come along and play live there? How many people have seen King of Kong? Yeah, quite a few. What I found as well was when I went to the States, it was Elite Gaming's got quite a click, it really has. So you probably noticed in the King of Kong when Steve Weeby he goes to play Donkey Kong live in Fun Spot, and it's that little bit of reception that he gets. It's a bit of a frosty reception. It was a similar reception I got. Don't be wrong, it wasn't hostile, but it was like, who's this guy from England? You know, this score's gone into the Twin Galaxy database because it was grandfathered in my score. So I can sort of expect that, you know, they were thinking, hang on, how good are you really? So I was encouraged to go over, played live, 2.2 million, so I was happy with that. And this, like I was saying before, this was the cab I played on, which was the actual cab. It's got a plaque on the top, in fact. That's the one Bill Mitchell got his perfect game on. So the joystick wasn't the one I was used to, so I think I did really well following year.
Now what we're looking at there, I don't know if you've got a slide of this later on. This is the split screen that you mentioned. That's the last board.
Yeah, that's board 256, and it's when the program becomes corrupt because using an 8-bit cycle, it tries to draw up 255 boards. I don't know the exact science, but you always end up with this split screen. This was obviously taken by someone who was watching it live. There was quite a big crowd of people there then. They were standing on chairs and everything. But going back to the Steve Weeby sort of thing, after I got this score and got it live, it was more of an acceptance thing then. I remember Todd Rogers, who's quite a famous gamer, he shook my hand and said, yeah, really well done. So,
Do you have another slide of that split screen later on?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so that's what it looks like when you get to the end.
There is a slide of the split screen, but it's when I get the perfect game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They always look the same. It's exactly the same. Yeah, I mentioned before Twitch TV, so I was actually playing live as well at home. So typically I have some practice games, and that every practice game could be a perfect game, so you don't know. So I've recorded the games. The one on the left, as you can see, is October 2013. I was quite close to a perfect game there. I'd missed a couple of ghosts along the way, so...
Did you know?
Yeah, I knew at the time, so I just wanted to go on to see what score, because a lot of guys just say, well, don't bother until you get a perfect game, but I wanted to make sure I catalogued each score. Play Blackpool, out there, yeah, in fact, a couple of years ago. Yeah, I got 2 split screens that weekend. So on the Saturday, I got 3.32 million. And then I got what's called a perfect eat. Like I said before, if you lose a life on the way, you lose 90 points. Because each life's worth 90 points at the end. So as you can see there, the score's 90 points less than a perfect game. That's because I only had 5 lives instead of 6.
Just one.
Must mention as well, just quickly, I put down the bottom as a prompt, I forgot about that. It's Greg S. That's Greg Sekundiak. He's a guy from Canada. Greg's been playing since back in the day. And he would typically play live in Canada when I played live in the UK. And it was almost like a friendly rivalry that who would be the first to get a perfect game, which is brilliant because if you've got someone to compete against, it's like being in the arcade again.
Were you first?
I was, because Greg's not got a perfect game now.
Yeah.
Great guy, great player. Yeah, and that was the setup as well. So as you can see, there's the machine at home, and it had the video feed. I had a laptop to the left there. And I think at one point there was 120 people watching from Australia to America, because it was Twitch Live. But yeah, that's the way I would normally practice. So if I was going to, just before an event, for example, I'd play at home for a week, and I would stream the games live.
What's the other cabs you've got there?
I had a Space Firebird on the right, and there was an original Pacman, Pacman that was next to the cabaret. The guy is a front on about there, Tim B. Tim Balderramos. No, Tim Balderramos has had perfect Pacman in MAME arcade, and he holds the current world record for the high score in Pacman. There's a patch kit that you can get for Pacman on the anniversary game where you can play through the split screen. So he holds the world record score, which is 6.2 million. So obviously he went through the split screen, just played again. So yeah, Tim was fantastic. He did some live streams with me. I incorporated some of his gameplay into mine, which helped to eventually get the perfect score. Yeah, you probably recognise this character here, it's Bill Mitchell. Free Play Florida, there's a great event there in Florida, in a DoubleTree hotel in Orlando. Fantastic machines as well. Bill lives in Florida, so it's just around the corner for him. He's a great sport. He's a good laugh. He's encouraged all my games, sent me emails, and he even wore a Union Jack tie on one of these days. It was a big Star Spangled Banner. But yeah, the machine was faulty. It had a flicker on the screen, but I was point perfect to board 19. Okay, perfect game. Got there in the end.
So that's last year.
Yeah, this is Play Margate. It's in the corner of the arcade.
And I think it happened in the evening during the evening game at Disco, didn't it?
Yeah, it was in the evening. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd had the expo open during the day, and then there was a sort of an extra party thing that we did in Margate, which carried on sort of a fun kind of live stage and comedy and gaming sort of thing that was happening in the evening. You feeling good that day? Did you feel like, this is a good day, I reckon I can do this today?
I said to a lot. Every time I've played live, I've said that I'm going to get the perfect game. If you doubt yourself and you think you're not going to do it, you don't do it. So
Yeah.
You've got to know you're going to do it. So I remember it was Simon at the back there. Maybe you said I was going to get it that day.
What made you think that, Bobby? Yeah. There you go.
I remember clearly because so many people had said to me, "Oh, you're going to do it this day." I've been to so many different events, and it was just water off the back then. And I just remember Simon saying that you're going to do it today. That was on the Sunday, because on the Saturday I got 2.3 million point perfect, and Pacman broke down when I was crossing the desert. I was disappointed, and I didn't think I was going to do it Sunday. But yeah, it was a memorable day.
What had you done in the days prior to that? What do you do before doing a live event? How do you prepare? Because this is an endurance challenge.
It's so easy to make a mistake. To me, the hardest thing is it's not really learning how to group the ghosts, and it's difficult. And I had the knowledge for years as well. The most difficult thing I found was the concentration level. You can be playing, you can be secluded, you can be roped off. Someone can walk behind you and just say something to the friend, and you'll start thinking of something different. Then something will break down, then you'll make a mistake. You're not allowed to make a mistake.
I don't think you play with headphones on either, do you? I remember seeing you cut off with...
Yeah, it's one of the things that people have asked me before as well is they've noticed I have the cab cranked up a little bit, the volume. With Pacman, you've recognised that you hear the siren in the background, the woo, woo. Now that goes up and up and up. As the more dots you eat, the higher that goes up. And that's a prompt for me for when the ghosts are starting to speed up. So that's important. So I need to hear what's going on. And like I said before, playing in live events has been really, really tough because there's so much ambient noise. I enjoy playing live in the arcade, but this is a completely different level.
So the days prior to that, do you get more sleep? Do you eat well?
Absolutely.
Do you treat it like, I'm going to be in physical condition for
Without doubt, yeah. No alcohol. Early nights before, a number of times people have gone out for a drink and it's Johnny, no. In bed at 9 o'clock. no alcohol, careful what I eat. You've got to stay clear-headed and you've got to concentrate and that's the reason why not many people have done this. Because just to apply yourself to that detail, it's really, really difficult, yeah.
And when you did it, what did it mean to you there and then?
It was fantastic, and it was difficult to put into words because some guys have probably seen the video that has been done of it, and it's straight after the event. I look like a zombie because I'd been playing for, I think it was 12 hours over that weekend, stood up. It's one of the things I do. I stand up when I play because there was no stools in the arcade; they got stolen. So you see, everyone who's had a perfect game, and I can say I got the most difficult perfect game, couldn't I? I stood up. Everyone else sat down.
The other 6 people who've done it have sat down?
Yeah, I was the only one who done stood up. But anyway, that's what I was used to.
But let's call this the only perfect game then. It's
the only stood up perfect.
The previous rules. If we can decide it's only perfect if you do it without emulation, what about saying and without a chair?
But yeah, it was fantastic. I was really, really tired as well. Like I said, I've been playing for 12 hours.
And you were at Play Margate the next day. I'm sure I bumped into you. I'm sure I remember bumping into you on the Monday.
And I was playing Pacman.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to wind down from it, it really was. It was strange. When I went the following day, I went in and it was just like, I felt like I was still playing the game. I could wear a hat all day and take it off and you feel like you're still wearing it. I felt like I was still playing it. And my only way to cool down from the perfect game was to play another game. So I played a 700,000 point game the following day and that was, I'd sort of unwound by then.
And there must have been a time, if not that day, or maybe even the next day, there must have been a point a few days later when you had, this is done. You've broken this thing, this monkey on your back, or however you might like to describe it. It's done. Were you relieved, or was that a big sense of loss for you?
Definitely relieved, because all the guys who had a perfect game were so supportive. From Bill, Don Hayes, till Tim Balderramos, all the guys were so supportive. And they knew I was going to get a perfect game, and it was to be in that clique. And that clique, like I was saying before, was all North American. And just to get in that club, it was such an achievement. I was so happy in the end.
Do you have something for it? Is there like an award or a trophy or an image of you looking young? Or
Probably. I've got one off. You'll probably see it in one of the slides coming up. Okay, so that's really a summary of what happened, yeah.
10:20 p.m. 3,333,360 points in 6 hours and 26 minutes. And there's those are donations that have been raised. You've raised a lot of money for blood cancer research and for the British Heart Foundation over all the events that you've come to, and you've been doing this, which is great. And that's the poster that people who've been to previous events will have seen as well, because that's always there, isn't it, on the machine? This is the point. This is what you've got to do.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fantastic not just to do a perfect game and to do it for yourself. It's good fun, but it was fun to a certain degree. But what made it more worthwhile was obviously raising money for charity as well. So thanks to the guys who donated as well. Okay, so that's the screen from on the left, obviously, from when I got the perfect game.
That's it?
That's it. That's obviously not the split screen. That's when the game's finished and goes back to a track mode. But you'll see the score anyway. It rolls over 3 times. When you get the perfect score, it will always be that score as the high score. And then you've got the 333, 360 on the left.
Yeah, so what's going on with the score there? Because that's not the whole...
Yeah, well, what it does, it rolls over at 1 million points.
Okay.
So you need to remember, €1 million. Even when you get to 2 million. I get quite tired. Always get tired at one point in the game. For me, it's 2 million. Because you then realise you've only got another 2 hours to go. And you feel like you're going to collapse. It's still part of
So did the developers never think anybody was going to do it?
Absolutely not.
Because they didn't allow for anybody to have a score of 1 million points.
Well, even the books that were produced back in the day, they had possible scores in Pacman, and they said it, in brackets, not achievable. So these perfect scores weren't achievable.
You can never say it's not achievable in a gaming environment without somebody going, yeah, right, come on then.
Yeah, and the poster on the right, sorry, it was announced and it was given out in Banning in California. So Bill selected me for the first Never Surrender award, because I didn't surrender for years until I got a perfect game. And you can probably see the picture there for the trading card. It was done by Dan Tell. A lot of you guys probably know Dan Tell. He does a lot of sports sketches. So he did one of me playing live Pacman.
How do you feel now? Are you at a replay event now thinking, I want to be doing it again?
Yeah, I played yesterday, and I was point perfect up to, I think it was the 4th key. And I started to chat to friends and that, so I didn't. But when I play, I still play quite competitively. And my thoughts are, moving forward, I'll play, say, for a charity event. Or if I go over to the States and there's a bit of a challenge saying, do you want to play Pacman? Yes, I will. But yeah, it's great to have done it and to put it behind me.
So these are all the people who have different awards, nominations, titles to their name.
Bill Mitchell, obviously, being the first perfect game. Yeah. Chris Ira closely followed Bill in the perfect game. Well, the two guys who got the first perfect games was Bill Mitchell and the guy called Rick Fothergill from Canada. And there was sort of a bit of a gentleman's agreement between them two because they went to FunSpot in 1998 and they competed against each other, so it was Canada against America. And that's where the whole Star Spangled Banner tie that Bill always wears, because Rick would turn up with as Captain Canada with the Canadian flag around his shoulders. Bill would turn up with Star Spangled Banner, so it was Canada versus America. And they made a bit of a gentleman's agreement to say that they would both, they missed the perfect game in 98, that they would both go back to FunSpot in 99 and compete against each other. But I think Bill changed the rules a bit and he played on American Independence Day. But he, quite confident and he got the perfect game there. Tim Valderramos, like I mentioned before, perfect arcade main. He's the current world champion as far as scores concerned. Don Hayes.
How is he the current high score champion?
Yeah, like I was saying before, there's a on the anniversary edition, there's a patch that fixes the MAME fix the split screen.
Yeah.
So you can actually pass through the split screen, so that really is an endurance event. Don Hayes needs no introduction. He's possibly, in my eyes, he's the greatest classic arcade gamer. Dave Cruz, very recent perfect Pacman, and he's the Tron world record holder. And a lot of people have probably heard of Dave race because he's got the fastest perfect Pacman now. I thought I'd mention Greg again there because he's only one life from getting a perfect game.
So that fastest perfect Pacman, I guess that is kind of an extra level of this challenge. It took you 6
Absolutely,
hours and
yeah.
28?
6:28.
6:28 to do
Dave's
it
done
in
it
Margate last year.
Dave's done it in 3 hours 29.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's really good. I mean, he uses emulation and he constructs patterns using emulation, and that's a skill and an art form in itself, but not for me.
And Mr. Jon Stoodley.
Yeah, the only person missing there was me.
So you're the only European who's done it. You're the 7th person who's ever done it.
Yeah, the only European and obviously the first UK.
There it is. You sure it wasn't just 333,360 points?
Yes, that's got the high score.
And it's done. So we don't have John standing in front of a Pacman cab at replay events anymore. But there's other things that are on your mind, future ones, aren't there? So, like, you will play some Pacman, as you mentioned. I'll put the quotes up in a minute, you mentioned as well. If you were going to take on another massive arcade gaming challenge, I hear you're pretty good at track and field.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go for the 1 round on track and field. So you need to be really, really quick. I can play track and field forever, just play and play. But the challenge with track and field is just to play on 1 round and to get your highest scores. There's an element of luck as well with track and field, but it's going to take literally hundreds and hundreds of games. You have to record every single game. But yeah, that's one of them. Another one's 1942. I've got a good friend in America called Martin Bedard. He's the world record holder, 1942. So nowhere near his world record, but it's a game that I want to concentrate on. So I want to get an original machine again and concentrate on that. Lots of different ones, even Berserk, Crystal Castles. I wouldn't mind having a go at Space Invaders as well.
Who's got a time in 100 metres in track and field that they're pretty pleased with? Anybody remember a good time, or roughly a good time that they got in track and field?
9 seconds, that's not bad, is it?
That's pretty good, isn't it?
I didn't do that, I'm just saying 9 seconds.
Just picking a number. Yeah. What's your 100 metres record?
7:64.
7.64, 100 metres. How do you do it? What's your technique for
No
button hammering?
Button bashing, basically.
So you're drumming all your fingers?
Yeah, I use a 6-finger technique. And the guy's
6-finger technique,
Yeah,
okay.
the guy's got a world record, uses 8 fingers. Backwards.
backwards.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's 7:54. I think he's had it in 100 metres as well. But it's an aggregate score on track and field. So even if you get, you're the fastest at 100 metres, it's over X amount of events.
Yeah.
So you can make it over.
But if anybody's playing any, hammering games, you recommend 6 fingers or 8 fingers and doing like that?
You can only do it one way, and that's with your fingers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just a game, but we will take a couple of questions, but just again to focus on Pacman. So it's freehand grouping is your technique of ignoring everybody, ignoring the sort of orange-brown poker ghost and grouping the other ones, see you, let them follow you around, hide if you have to, and then regroup them, but try and basically get them all next to you, knowing that poker's going to go the other direction as soon as you eat the pill.
Well remembered. Perfect Pacman.
Thank you. But that's only for boards 1 to 21. There's quite a lot that you haven't told us what to do.
Well, 1 to 21, there's 3 parts of Pacman. So you've got board 1 to 21. So you need to be point perfect. Okay. So you need to remember to look at the score as well. So 365, 600. So that's on the 9th key.
So if you can get 365, 600 on board 21.
9th key, yeah.
9th key.
Yeah, you know if you're point perfect because if you miss anything. You know
but that's a way of measuring, you're on that board and you've hit that score, then you've had a perfect game to that stage. So what's the second? Because you mentioned the desert.
Yeah. The first part, like I said, is board 1 to 21. That typically takes freehand. It takes about an hour and 55 minutes. And then we call it crossing the desert because when you get to that point, it takes a hell of a lot out of you because to be point perfect there, you've got to take a deep breath and then just realise that you've got over 4 hours to get to the end. So you've then got to typically run a pattern because it would just take too long to try and freehand the rest of them.
Does something change in the game between 21 and 22?
Yeah, in effect, you slow down 90 to 90% speed and the ghosts stay at 100% speed. So you then use a pattern. I use a pattern I used in 1982, which I still use now. And the thing is, we're running a pattern, crossing this desert, as we call it, because you're already quite tired. And then you've got to do another 4 hours before you get to the split screen, which is the third part.
I mean, this is like running a marathon, but hitting the wall after 5 or 6 miles.
Absolutely, and it's, like I was saying before, it's the ambient noise, it's people around, it's things you might have on your mind. You can't have a headache, you can't have a bad day before, it just won't work. And then you get to this point, and you then realise that you've got 4 hours to go, and that's the when you hit that wall as well, you just got to push on.
So between level 1 20 board, even 21 and 22, you go a little bit slower, but it goes to the same speed. Is there another hurdle later on a later board?
No, it's just really fatigue then. As the
right, so from 22 onwards, that's the game.
It's exactly the same, yeah. And
when you get to split screen, if you've got there with all your lives remaining, tell us how the split screen works. You're only playing on half the board, or do you play on the whole board, you just can't see it?
Yeah, on the split screen, you can actually play the left-hand side because it's a complete maze. On the right-hand side, it's corrupt, so you've got to sort of muddle your way through that.
Can you go in and out of the corrupt?
Yes, you can.
Section? Do you have to play with where the pills and the dots are? You just can't see them?
There's only a couple of visible dots that you can eat, but there's some hidden dots as well that you've got to find. So typically, I trap the ghost on the right-hand side, let Pokey do his thing. I clear the left-hand side of the board, but you must get the key, because you activate the key however many dots you eat. The first key comes up, there's only one key on the split screen, it's 5,000 points, so if you don't get that, no perfect game.
And the key is where the fruit appears on
Absolutely,
the area.
under the ghost box, yeah. So you have to get the key. You can die at that point, because you can use the rest of your lives to get the rest of the dots, yeah. But the dots that don't respawn, yeah, the only dots that respawn is in the split screen side, so it's 9 dots in there. Each time you die, yeah, once you've cleared all the left-hand side of the board and you've got the key, you then use the remainder of your lives to eat the 9 hidden dots.
So you go and get the 9 dots, you die,
You
use
kill
another
yourself.
life to go and get the 9 dots. Yeah. Each one of those is worth 10 points, that's why each life is worth 90 points at the end.
Yeah.
Because you go and get the 9 dots and it's corrupt, so you come back again and you get them.
Yeah.
And if you had more lives, you keep going and get them, but that's how many you've got.
That's right, and because you've only got X amount of lives, and the reason why they went for 5 lives as well, 5 plus 1, 6, so you see 6 lives, because default is 3 lives. The reason why they did that is it was sort of when they were going for a perfect game, so you can't get a higher score. So if you set the settings on Pacman to the most lives, that's the highest score that you can get, so it can't be beaten. So that's the reason why that is the high score.
So that's the gist of it. A lot of prep, a lot of looking after yourself, a lot of mental focus. You can park in certain parts of the board if you do. I know, like I've talked to you at previous events, and you've parked Pacman knowing, well, he won't be got there, and you can actually take a moment, find a bathroom, perhaps, maybe, you know. So that's how you can do it as an endurance thing. You don't have to do it constantly. You can park it and just take a moment and get yourself together again.
Chatting to the other guys who've had perfect games, I don't think there's anyone who's parked and gone off. It's the sheer adrenaline.
You've got to stay in that.
Once you know you're on a perfect game, you're on a perfect game. There's no bathroom break. The adrenaline takes care of it.
But if you're trying to get somewhere in Pacman, you think, well, the perfect game is beyond me, but I want to know some of the ways around the board, then I think we've covered a few useful tips about the ghosts and places on the board. Are there any questions, any more details you'd like to know about Pacman or any other questions about the game? We've got time for just a couple of questions. Yeah.
Hi, John.
Hi, Sean.
That guy that's done it in 3 hours 28 or something, how's he done it that quick? Where's he made the time up from?
Well, what he's done is that there's actually patterns for Pacman. That if you go on YouTube, you can actually see patterns. There's a guy called Don Hodges who's a system programmer, and he's one of the famous guys who wrote Pacman code, and he found out what the ghost actually did, and he constructed patterns using an emulator. And there's one of his patterns that he travels through the ghosts 9 times in one board.
Passes through them?
Passes through the ghost 9 times. Well, it's where the Pacman's represented by a pixel. You see a ghost, the program sees a pixel, and the ghost is represented by a pixel. And I think there's 60 pixels per tile that they occupy. So when they both meet together, they pass through.
So it's collision detection?
Absolutely, yeah. So what they've done is, on MAME, apparently, you can advance it by 1 frame at a time. You can imagine how long it takes. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks just to... So what these guys do is, with emulation, is that they can construct patterns, perfect patterns, that are continual forward movement. So where you see me stop and groove, there's none of that. You're continually moving forward, yeah. So you never stop, you never groove.
Any more questions?
To be specific, a pattern, what is that for you? A series of directions that have to be inputted frame perfect?
Yeah, a pattern with Pacman is regarded as continual forward movement. Okay, so even if you, on my 9th key pattern, there's only one part where I reverse and go back. So although it's not forward motion, you turn backwards, you at not one point do you stop, okay? So it's considered as continual forward movement in answer to your question.
So it's not just it's not like you always go, you know, up, right, down here, along there, down there, and then back round again. There's not a
No.
you follow.
No. You look at the ghost, you manipulate the ghost, you put them where you want them to be, and you take them to the power pills when you want them to go there.
More questions? Yeah. Jim?
First, thanks for teaching me how to get to the split screen.
No worries.
Secondly, you said Las Vegas is closed. Do you think it's because some kid came in and put 10p in and spent all day?
I'm sure it wasn't me.
Yeah, profit margins are down, boss, but there's people in here.
Hi, we've tried to park Pacman at our retro club and failed miserably. Can you park Pacman indefinitely in that spot?
Yes, you can. It was discovered that when you park Pacman, I don't know whether you're aware that there's reversals in the beginning of the game. When you watch me play Pacman, it happens from the first apple onwards, that when I park Pacman, I wait for the reversals to complete. Because one of the mistakes people make is when they first play Pacman, you grab all the joystick, and you're running around and you're trying to run away from the ghosts. Now, you just need to remember that at a certain point the ghosts aren't even chasing you. They go to their corners, they have to do what's called a reversal. So what they'll do is they'll go to their corners and they'll reverse back to you. And there's 4 of them, yeah? So at the beginning of the board, I park Pacman in the beginning, I wait for the reversals to complete. Now the reason why I do that is because when I travel around the maze then, I'm not worried about any reversals. So I can actually travel between ghosts with the knowledge that they're not going to turn around and get me.
Any more?
Takes a while.
We'll, if anybody wants to check again where those places are, you can we'll put the board back up in a little bit. And
all the videos and the perfect game and even games I played before, they're all on YouTube as well.
What are your thoughts on Steve Weeby, Billy Mitchell, sort of controversy around sort of the King of Kong and the story there? Have you got any thoughts or inside knowledge about?
Well, my thoughts are to do with the way the film was edited, because I think Seth Gordon made a great job of making it entertaining. So a lot of people have got this opinion that Bill's a beep. He's a great guy. He's a Loftford Classic gamer. He's a really nice bloke. He turns up at all these events. He doesn't get paid. You know, he's a rich guy anyway. But he's a nice guy. He always supports people who are going for world records. But in answer to your question, they're good friends, Steve and Bill. And it was very much edited, that film, to make it entertaining. A lot of it didn't happen.
Right.
Some of the recordings were months and months apart. So when you see Bill on the phone to Brian Q, he was a really nice guy as well, Brian. He was at a bad time because of that film. They're months apart, they're not related.
Glad you cleared that up. One more question. Anybody have one more question technically about Pacman?
No, but when is your documentary coming out?
Aha.
I don't know. When's the documentary coming out? I've been really looking forward to doing this. A little bit nervous because I'm not used to, doing audience chats. I've done lots of Q&As when I've been over to the States and stuff with Bill and all the rest of them. But just to catalogue it and then just to chat about it has been great. So I don't mind. I'll do a documentary. How much you pay?
So if anybody's got any more questions for John, do come over and have a chat. We've got some quotes which are collated from the other people who've done a perfect game. So we'll leave it on that. If you want to have a look, these will scroll through. Well, that's how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you'll all go away and get much bigger scores on Pacman than you've ever managed to do before. Could we please put our hands together and thank one of only 7 men in the world, Jon Stoodley, the only European with perfect Pacman, one of our own, done replay events. Congratulations, John.
Yeah, just big thanks for replay events as well. You know who you guys are and all the people who have been supportive. Just a quick one about the quotes. All these, some of these, they're exclusive anyway. Bill's was the one before mine. All the guys who've got perfect games have given me quotes in the last 4 weeks. So you might just want to have a look at these. And I do give a mention to what I've called the perfect team. So that includes replay events, and obviously they've been really helpful in helping me along the way.
So thanks very much for coming to play Blackpool this weekend. You have 25 minutes of play Blackpool left. If you want to have another chat with John, get any pictures or anything like that, please do. Otherwise, we will be closing at 6 o'clock today, so you've got a little bit of time to go and get some more games in, form a nice queue for Pacman. Get cracking on that perfect record. I don't think you've got time, I'm afraid, but try your best. Well, thanks very much, everybody, for coming to play Blackpool. We have just under half an hour left. And then, of course, we'd love you to join us in Glasgow, we'd love you to join us in Margate, or at the Massive Play Expo in Manchester in October later on this year. Have a look at our website, Replay Events, to find out about all the other events that we do throughout the year, much like Blackpool, but around the UK. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming to this talk. Thank you again, John.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And enjoy the rest of Play Blackpool.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Ha 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 ha!